This, I was expecting every team in the league to be calling Cleveland. I was told that hasn't been the case because teams know that the Browns don't really have a lot of incentive to trade a player like Myles Garrett right now. It doesn't make a lot of sense for them. Closer to the draft, maybe we'll see some action that they'll be blown away by an offer, but right now it just hasn't been something that has traction.
The voice of new news yesterday on Myles Garrett. He is not open to a contract extension with the Cleveland Browns. A league source confirmed initially to Cleveland.com, and that his representatives have slammed the door in negotiations. The Browns met with the Garrett's representatives at the scouting combine in Indy last week. And give CC credit, because the moment this all started, he said on our show, this is not going to be about money.
Yep.
That release or that statement that Myles Garrett put out there, Kevin, very much felt like, I'm sorry I have to do this. I've thought about this long and hard. This is taking a lot out of me emotionally because I love the Cleveland Browns fans, but it's time, and nothing you're going to do is going to change my mind. And so it is not surprising to me, with 2 years left on his deal, that we learn yesterday that he is not going to be willing to negotiate a contract extension. And I will continue to come back with this. And we have so many great fans in Cleveland, ESPN Cleveland, awesome, awesome, awesome radio station. They support our show like crazy, except when they fight with Nuno off the air, which has happened. Okay. I just don't understand their approach here. Why aren't the Browns looking at this as a blessing from God of like, oh my God, at some point we were going to have to do this anyway, and we never actually wanted to do this?
Yeah.
He's done the dirty work for us. We didn't want to have to go to Myles and say, the only way we can get good is by trading you because we need like 4 guys for your price, not just 1 guy because we're not good enough. And they keep fighting this.
First of all, dude, Myles Garrett was the number 1 overall recruit in 2014.
Oh, my God. I wrote his name down in the draft that year.
Leonard Fournette, number 2. Jabril Peppers, number 4 that year. Cam Robinson, actually, number 3. So there you go. Nice little trip down memory lane for the fellas. I'm not so sure the Browns aren't viewing it like that. So here's the deal. So I don't believe that a team has ever traded a player they wanted to keep in the NFL. I think the franchise tag is such a valuable tool for teams. I think that teams ignore trade requests all the time. Like you looked at the Rodgers situation a couple of years ago. Rodgers requested trade. The Packers said, thanks for the suggestion. We're going to keep you for 2 more years. And then they trade him when the wheels are about to fall off. Russell Wilson, I think a pretty similar deal where that I think Russell thought that relationship would run its course a year and a half, 2 years before they ended up trading him, right? So if I'm the Browns right now, I'm looking at this franchise and I'm saying I don't think that if they get Cam Ward, that's one thing. We can talk about that, but I don't think that they think that they're going to be a microwave contender. That somehow they get a quarterback and all of a sudden they're ready to rock. That's an aging roster. They are paying the price of the draft capital that they lost from the Deshaun Watson trade. They need something. They need a reset button in some way. If you're able to get multiple firsts from Myles Garrett,
which you would be able to,
which you would be able to, I would assume you'd be able to. That just seems like the cost of doing
Philly and Washington would give you 2 firsts right now, right?
100%, especially Washington. And because that's a cheat code to get on par with Philadelphia. Like Philadelphia has everybody's like, what's the lesson of Philadelphia? The lesson is to have top 5 guys at every position, okay?
And extend them early.
Yes, extend them early, keep them, all that stuff, right? Be good in the trenches. All of a sudden you get Myles Garrett, we're having a completely different conversation. You have a completely different conversation in the NFC East. That's the shortcut there. But I think that Cleveland should do it. And I also think Cleveland should take the approach that they're taking now, which is, of course we're not going to trade him. Of course we're not. They would be doing football malpractice. They'd be doing their organization a disservice if they're not listening to every single call. Every single call. Publicly say, no chance. Privately say, what do you got?
So you believe that Andrew Berry, general manager of the Cleveland Browns, right now has decided he is going to trade Myles Garrett and is doing everything in his power to drive up the price?
I think he's decided to listen. I think he has to. He's too smart not to listen. I've met Andrew Berry. I've interviewed Andrew Berry.
Intelligence
He's all about value. He's all about maximizing the quarterback position, surrounding it with talent. Like that's the number one goal of that organization. Andrew Berry learned that from Bill Polian. He'll learn that from, they understand what that looks like because Bill Polian was with Peyton Manning in Indy and Jim Kelly with Buffalo and all that stuff, right? Like that's their lineage. And so I think he's looking at this and saying, how can we solve all of our problems? And one of those solutions would be to trade Myles Garrett for a Hall of Draft.
Okay, so Kevin, stop right there for a second. If you're right, which you very well may be, and I hope you are for the Browns fans' sake, because I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel if they just try to keep him for the next 2 years and then he walks, or they have to franchise him after, whatever it may be. Like, I think it's more likely to get ugly than it is going to be clean. Then why, if you're Washington today, are you not just saying, let's stop the trades?
Yeah.
We're going to give you the next 2 firsts. Let's just call this a day. Let's just get this done. We'll give you this year and next year right now.
They should.
Well, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't Philadelphia then
know.
do the same thing? I know that there's been a whole back and forth between ESPN in Chicago and ESPN Cleveland about a hypothetical trade, and then that everybody's throwing out their 10-39 in next year's first from the Bears for Myles Garrett. Okay, well, if you're the Browns, that seems like a heck of a deal, does it not? 10-39 in next year's first?
Yeah, I'd take that.
Right, and you would take Washington's next 2?
That's yes.
And you would take Philadelphia's next 2 and assume that they're... You wouldn't take Philly because you're assuming
Philadelphia. It's
30 to 32,
30 to 31 to 32. Yeah, that's tough. I would rather have the Commanders. But if the Commanders are the team we think they are, they're going to be 28. You know,
Right.
So I get that.
Well, the Bears. That's why the Bears offer would be the best, because even if the Bears are significantly improved,
They're still the Bears.
right, and they're not going to be 30, 31, 32. But again, none of what you just said is happening unless all of a sudden it just out of nowhere, Shefty drops the bomb and it's like, oh yeah, 2 first-rounders, and Andrew Berry just says...
But that's happened a lot. That happened with Tyreek Hill. That happened with Khalil Mack a couple years ago. Like that happened with Jalen Ramsey. Like, this has happened before.
This is pretty steadfast. Like he said to Kimberly A. Martin at the Combine, he being Andrew Berry, unmovable. That's a strong word to use. Unmovable?
I don't believe it.
Nobody's
unmovable.
I agree with you.
And Louis Riddick joins us now from the Combine. Lou, which players caught your eye during Thursday's workouts?
The defensive line, they were fantastic. The height, weight, and speed that some of these guys possess are going to be the kind of measurables that NFL scouts covet. Let's just start with Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. He goes 6'5", 267 pounds, ran 4.59 in the 40 and jumped 40 in the vertical jump. He's a guy who at Texas A&M didn't have the kind of production that maybe necessarily you would equate with the measurables that he has. But I think NFL teams are going to bet on the fact that they can get that out of him, because these kind of physical measurables are rare, and they're the kind that you just want to work with, and he'll come off the board early. Next, we'll go with James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee, who measured in at 6'5", 245, and ran a very easy, smooth 4.47 in the 40-yard dash. He was one of the best pass rushers in the entire country, and he's a guy who's just going to need to prove that, one, he can be dependable, stay on the field, do all the things necessary off the field in order to be a productive on-field player. Because just remember the name Javon Curse. This young man will remind you of him. And then lastly, Landon Jackson from Arkansas, who's just a mountain of a man at 6'6", 264 pounds. He can play defensive end in a base 4-3, move him inside the rush at defensive tackle and sub. He's a guy who had a 40.5-inch vertical and ran 4.68 in the 40. His production is, again, not where you need it to be, but that's what the NFL is all about. It's about continuing to develop guys, and it's about projecting future performance. All 3 of these guys have high upside and bright futures.
Meanwhile, Penn State's Abdul Carter wasn't scheduled to work out at the Combine because of a shoulder injury from the college football playoff. Then doctors discover a stress reaction in his right foot. Now, he says he's flat out the best player in the country, should go number 1 in the draft, but he says he's at 90%. How much concern are you hearing about Carter?
Well, I think at this point in time, what NFL scouts and general managers really have to rely on are the opinions of their medical staff. That's one of the areas that you cut no corners when you're building out your football operation because of moments like these. Some teams are going to look at this and say, this is very minimal risk. This does not take him off the board for consideration to be a top 1 or 2 draft pick. Some teams may take him off their board. Some teams may knock him down. But one thing I can tell you is this. Everyone thinks this guy is going to be a surefire Pro Bowl caliber player from day one. So I'm just hoping that it all pans out the way he wants to, and he goes on to have a long and illustrious career.
Yeah, trying to follow up in that edge lineage from LeVar Arrington through Micah Parsons and now to Carter. Meanwhile, Lou, Travis Hunter also expected to be off the board early. Lots of talk about him playing both ways in the NFL the way he did in college. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think they should continue along that path in terms of allowing this young man to play on both sides of the football. Because I'll tell you what, for him to do what he did at the level that he did it at in college, there aren't many people walking the planet Earth that can wind up doing this kind of thing. Not just from a physical perspective, but the kind of mental toll that takes on you to be on for that long on both sides of the ball. I think he'll start off on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL. I think he could be an immediate Pro Bowl caliber player because of how smooth, fluid, fast, physical, and the kind of ball skills that he has, that he will be a guy who will take the football away from opposing offenses and then work him in on the offensive side of the ball. Give him a few packages, a few things that he can learn and try to perfect. This guy could truly go down as one of the most versatile players in NFL history if his career arc goes the way I expect it to and he has a little bit of luck.
Wow, that's a lot. Hey, man, we appreciate the breakdown.
Yeah.
We don't want you to be late for your reservation at St. Elmo's, so we'll let you go. Appreciate it.
Attention, NFL fans. The future of Sam Darnold is up in the air, and the situation could be resolved in the coming days. The Minnesota Vikings seem to have made a key decision about their quarterback, and all signs point to the team not using the franchise tag to retain him. But that's not all. Rumors about his next destination are stronger than ever, with the Las Vegas Raiders at the center of the conversation. However, it looks like the Nevada team has another priority in mind. What will happen with Darnold? We'll tell you everything right here. Before diving into Sam Darnold's future, there's another story that could influence the entire situation. The Las Vegas Raiders have been searching for a quarterback, and while many thought Darnold could be an option, reports indicate their true target is Matthew Stafford. The veteran Rams QB has drawn interest from several teams, and if he ends up in Las Vegas, Darnold could lose one of his top free agent options. According to the latest reports, the Raiders are fully focused on Matthew Stafford, prioritizing securing a deal with him before considering other options. Although it was initially believed that Stafford might leave the Rams, it has now been confirmed that he will remain in Los Angeles under a restructured contract. This means Las Vegas will have to rethink its strategy, but what's most surprising is that, according to league sources, they are not willing to make a big investment in another free agent quarterback. This could be a setback for Darnold, who is still searching for a team where he can be a starter. With this situation unfolding, the key question is, where will Sam Darnold end up playing? The Raiders seem to have closed the door, and while the Giants and Steelers could still be interested, his market might not be as big as initially thought. Do you think Darnold has what it takes to be a starting QB on an NFL team, or would his best option be accepting a backup role on a competitive roster? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to know what you think about this quarterback's future. Now that we've seen how the quarterback market is shifting, it's time to focus on the biggest news of the moment. The Minnesota Vikings have to make a crucial decision regarding Sam Darnold's future, and everything indicates that his fate could be decided sooner than expected. What will the team do with their Pro Bowl quarterback? Will they use the franchise tag, or will they let him test free agency? ***, let's break down all the details of this situation. The Minnesota Vikings appear to have made a decision about Sam Darnold. According to the latest reports, the team does not plan to use the franchise tag on their quarterback. The main reason? They have no intention of keeping him under a one-year, $40+ million contract, making a possible trade more complicated. As a result, all signs point to Darnold entering free agency and looking for a new team for the 2025 season. But which teams could be interested in him? Let's take a look. The Vikings' decision not to tag Sam Darnold has several implications. First, Minnesota loses the opportunity to receive a high draft pick in exchange for their quarterback. Instead, they could receive a compensatory pick in 2026 if Darnold signs elsewhere. Additionally, this confirms that the team is ready to pursue a new QB, whether through free agency or the draft. Meanwhile, Darnold will now be free to negotiate with any interested franchise. Now, the question is for you, football fans. Are the Minnesota Vikings making the right call by letting Sam Darnold hit free agency? Should they have franchise tagged him to try to get something in return? And with the Raiders focusing on Matthew Stafford, which other team do you think should go after Darnold? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what you think about this major NFL move. That's all for today, NFL fans. Sam Darnold's situation is still uncertain, but all signs indicate we'll have final news soon. Will he join a new team, or will there be a last-minute twist? We'll be on top of every update and bring you the latest right here on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any NFL updates. See you in the next video.